are you doing? How has been your day so far? Thank God it's Friday again. I'm so excited that it's another Friday because the weekend gives me much more time to relax and have less stress from work. For some persons, it's not like that. But all the same, irrespective of how it is, yes, thank God it's Friday. And for some of us, we tend to take some time to unwind, relax, go for parties, weddings, and just find some time to mingle with friends. And that's how it's been for some persons. And for me, yes, I'm going to be indoors more than a few activities to take me out. For those who may be stumbling on this video for the first time, my name is Dr. John-Ugwuanya, and I've been your favorite live video host. And for today, I want to talk about anger. Do you know your triggers? Because every one of us at some point would have had a time when we had an outburst of anger, where we were unhappy and we just ranted and ranted and ranted. For some of us who may have been taken to be quiet, she's nice, she's cool, and the day they hear you spit out is like, you mean Grace can talk like this? I know that. So we all at some point would have had scenarios or events that would have been a very, very strong trigger, and for us sometimes the outcome is not so palatable because it makes us spit out words that we would not have said on a normal day, or utter statements that could hurt the other person. And if we had been able to identify the things that were our triggers, it wouldn't have deteriorated to that point. And it's wisdom for us as individuals to understand our limits, understand our capabilities, and not form superheroes who don't get angry, or superheroes who don't have weaknesses or shortcomings. Every single one of us at some point would have had something that would have been a very strong trigger, and when not managed well, it just takes it off the bar. The outcome is often not palatable. And how do I curb it? I know I've had a case scenario at a point where I was very stressed, and that's one thing you need to understand, that stress too could be a trigger. I was talking with somebody quite recently, and I made a comment that for some persons who have been involved in transfer of aggression, meaning you're getting angry at someone, but that person is actually not the cause of the anger, but just a recipient of the anger. Somebody else would have annoyed you, something else may have triggered that anger, but another person is suffering the consequence of it. One thing that many of us don't understand is that there are some kind of pressures we may have put ourselves under, or life may have presented to us, and because we did not manage it well, we begin to spoil things. I've had a time where I really had a very negative outburst. It wasn't as though I was insultive. I was physically exhausted, and I was like, look, I just want to go home, and that the incident on its own would not have triggered such kind of effect, but because I had been managing stress and trying as much as I could to manage and just keep pushing and pushing, at the point my body couldn't push. So even if I tried to push, because the pressure had mounted over time, just a little thing triggered, and I had an outburst. And by the time I cooled down, I was like, it wasn't necessary, but the deed has been done. So the question I'm going to ask you is, what is your trigger? And it's wisdom for us to understand when we are at that threshold and do all we need to do to prevent that outburst. I had a case scenario at a point where I had lots of contact with some persons on a project, and at the point I had somebody in that team who was one of the core lead in the team. It was like everything I was doing was wrong, and everything that person who was the lead was trying to do it was more like trying to mess up my work, make it look as though I was not efficient, I was not performing, but I knew I was giving my best. And at the point I was trying to manage, because the person is a superior, the person was also older, and I was just trying to manage so I don't react in a way that they would say she's disrespectful and all that. And I was managing to a point where I knew it that I had finished managing. If I stay longer in that kind of environment, if I work longer with that person as the lead, the tendency of having an outburst that everybody will hear about, and it may not be nice, and the effect of that outburst would not be nice, was very close. Like, I knew having an outburst was very close, and I didn't want that to happen. All I had to do was to inform the persons who were the co-organizers of that team that, look, if you want to see me efficient on this job, please allocate me to another person. I can't work efficiently without this person, because I'm at that point where I can have an outburst at any time. And that was the first time I can remember that I was proactive when it comes to handling anger. That I was proactive when it comes to recognizing a trigger and doing what I needed to do within my power to see that I don't have that angry outburst. And that's where many of us we tend not to understand where we are. We tend not to be truthful to ourselves on our strengths, on our weaknesses. Nobody is a superhero. Nobody is, even those who we feel they're very gentle, they don't find trouble, they're always quiet, they're always nice with their words, they're always like, we tend to give them some very good commendations, because we feel that they have their emotions on the check, they don't get angry, they're always cool-headed, they're always like this. Even those persons, under a very wrong condition, would have an outburst. It may not be in the category that some of us are familiar with, but there will be an outburst that is not common with them because they were placed in a stressful environment. So it is wisdom for you as a person to ask yourself, okay, for all the times I was angry, what really triggered it? Was it stress? Okay, if I'd handled that stress level well, it wouldn't have deteriorated to this point. Was it external pressure? Was it financial pressure? Was I even putting too much pressure on myself? I will give an instance. I'm assuming that I know that on a normal day, I can do like 3 or 4 activities in 1 hour. 1 hour. Depending on the activity, and I end up putting 10 activities in 1 hour, and I do that repeatedly, putting myself under such kind of pressure. When that persists over time, it will get to the point where you are exposed to circumstances or events that are not within your control, and you just flare up, and people are wondering like, what did they make her vex? The people around are not the cause. It is because of the pressure you've put on yourself consistently and you're not managing it well. So it is one thing for you to know that, oh, at some point I'd get angry. It's another thing to understand, what are the things that make me angry? What are the things that make me have those emotional outbursts? Can I be truthful to myself? And I outline those things and ask myself, how best can I handle such kind of scenarios? Are there things I can do that puts me in check, that makes me handle things better? That's where the place of wisdom comes in. None of us will sit down and just feel, I get angry, that's me. If you don't like it, just take it. That's not a good solution. Even the Bible said, be angry and sin not, meaning there are times where events would happen that will make you very angry, that will make you unpleasant, that will make you unhappy. But then when you have observed yourself and you're now beginning to discover specific things that are triggers that you have identified, how can you manage those triggers? How can you identify those triggers so that you don't have outbursts that are very unpleasant? Yes, there are some outbursts, angry outbursts that could initiate or make one to effect a correction, and you're like, I don't like that, why don't you do this like this other way? Yes, you're angry because what you're expecting from that person is not what they are giving, and you're offering your solution, or you're offering your counsel, you're offering your admonishment or correction from that place of being angry at the thing that the person did wrongly, not at the person. You know, when we begin to get angry towards the person, an individual, that's where it gets very unpleasant. But if we're now unhappy about the event or whatever it is they've done, and our aim is on how to correct it, it makes all the whole difference. So it is one thing to get angry, because at some point we could get angry. But the main question is, have I been able to identify my triggers? Have I been able to identify the things that makes me very unhappy, makes me have those emotional outbursts, and begin to look for ways to curb them, ways that can be able to enable me meander through that event without creating a scene, without responding in ways that, or using words that would be very unpleasant. And at the end I begin to ask myself, why did I do this? Why did I not do that? You know, we need to get to that point where we have a full and deep understanding of ourselves, because every one of us is a work in progress. I am not perfect. I am moving towards perfection. I'm asking God to help me in my strengths, in my weaknesses, and let God see me as I do. I need help, you know, and these are things where I know it happens and the outcome is not always pleasant, but God, this is where I am. Just help me. And when you're that sincere with God, He goes all out to help you. He goes all out to do all He needs to do to help you in that weakness, to help you in that struggle. If getting angry is a struggle that you have, for some persons, they get angry necessarily, whether it is something they need to get angry about or something they don't need to get angry about. I'm not talking about this kind of persons, but even for people like that, it's also wisdom for you to identify, ask yourself, why are they even vex self? Why am I getting angry? Does this thing about me being angry? And when you discover, like, it doesn't want you being angry, you begin to tell yourself that, look, on so and so matter, if you encounter such kind of scenario again, don't be angry, because at this point, you cannot control it, especially when it has to do with people being the cause of the anger. You know, it's one thing for me to know the things I have control over. It's another thing when other people are the ones triggering you. I cannot control other people. I cannot control how they react. I cannot control the things they do, but I can control my response. So it's wisdom to identify your triggers, the things that make you angry, and see how you can manage it, so that we don't use words and have emotional outbursts, that we utter words that even when we tell people sorry, the sorry cannot clean the words we've used on them. You know, I've often made comment that there are some kind of words you can tell to people, there are some kind of ways you can annoy people, that even when you tell them sorry, the sorry does not make that error you've made mild, because of the kind of words used at this point. So every one of us is a work in progress. So it is wisdom. It's wisdom to understand where you are and give it all it takes. So till I come your way, have a wonderful time. And always remember, it's weekend. Take some time to rest, because you need to rest. Have a wonderful time, and God bless you.